And I'm going to actually leave the thesis up here because I'm going to show you how the thesis ties into organizing the rest of your paper. So you have your thesis, you have your claim because reason 1, 2, and 3. Well, then you come down here to your topic sentence of your first body paragraph. So this is body paragraph 1. And when you're coming down to your topic sentence, it's going to be very similar to your thesis, which is why I left that up there. The only difference is that you are going to have a transition word or phrase, and you are also going to only add one reason. So what I like to do for the first body paragraph is there's a couple of different options that you guys could use for transition words or phrases. So I'm going to put that right here and let you pick one. So, like I've said multiple times, you guys have heard me say this, you need to be a nice writer. You need to be a nice person, so you need to tell the reader what to expect. So, with transitioning from the introduction to the topic, the first topic sentence or the first body paragraph, you need to tell them that you're making that transition and they're about to read the first reason why, or they're about to talk about the first piece of information that you have that supports your claim. So I like to say things like, to start with, what's another one? In the first place. And the second one, or the third one, you could just literally say first. So first, comma, and every one of these has to have a comma after it because it's a phrase or a word that's separate from the sentence that we're about to write. But you could literally say first, comma, and then go into your claim because reason 1. So looking back at what that would look like, if you are making your claim, your argument, and you're trying to do this in an easy way, look back at your thesis, and all you're going to do is copy and paste your claim, and then put the because and reason 1. And that's it. That's all that has to go down here is your your transition word or phrase, whatever that may be, over here, and your claim because reason 1, period. Okay? The next thing that you're going to be doing is the cite text evidence, which if you've come up with your reasons, you should already have a piece of evidence tied to each reason. So all you need to do, or make sure you do, is put your piece of evidence in quotation marks, and then you need to make sure that you do an in-text citation at the end. So if it's one of the mystery logs and you're looking at Bringle's, he's the source, so it'd be Bringle 1, just like that. If you're looking at like Burkhart's, it would be Burkhart 1. Because you're telling you're being a nice writer, and you're telling the reader where you are getting your information. The only thing I want to say for the piece of information here is that you are going to copy and paste this, and paste from source. So this should be pretty easy. Because you're literally going back into the source and selecting a sentence and you're putting it in the quotations and adding the in-text citation. The only thing I want you guys to be aware of is that whatever you put in those quotation marks that came from the source, it needs to support your reason. It should not be completely different from the reason that you have given, because that is not the best piece of evidence to support that reason, and you will be docked points for that. So don't just copy and paste a random sentence or one that you think is interesting, so you're just going to interject it there. It needs to be why you came up with that reason one in the first place. The very last thing for this would be, or for the first body paragraph, would be the explain evidence. So now that you have written your claim plus reason one, and we know we're talking about this in the first place, or to start with, then you copy and paste your piece of information, you interject that, so that's your second sentence. You need to come up with 2 sentences down here explaining why that evidence supports your claim. And so I always say that you should start the explain evidence with this shows or this means. And you're coming up with 2 sentences explaining what that evidence shows and why that supports your claim. I also like to say this is kind of like putting a bow on it, because we believe our claim, essentially. We came up and we collected the information on that. And so we get the claim. It makes sense to us. We get the evidence. We looked at the evidence. But let's say from an outside perspective that they do not get it or they do not agree with your claim. Well, the explain evidence is where you really drive it home the point you were trying to make. In case somebody doesn't think like you or doesn't agree with you, this is where you really explain yourself or explain why this is the right answer. So that's why I say it's like putting a bow on it. It's making it nice and neat for the person that's going to be reading it. And that's your first body paragraph. The second body paragraph is going to be very similar to what we just did. There's only going to be a few differences, and I'm going to point those out on paragraph 2 and 3 actually. I'm going to point out the few differences here for you in a second. But at this time, if you want, you can pause the video. Let's see if I got this all. Okay. And go ahead and do your stuff. So, paragraph 2 and 3 are different in the sense that they need a different transition word, and they will have a different reason. That's the only 2 things that are going to be different. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to show you on classes or on your classroom where to go and find a list of transitional words for you to use. Let's see here. It should be underneath argumentative practice. And you should see this link. It might be called something different on your classroom, but just go to the link that I have posted with your template. So, and you see the first thing up there is in the first place, because that's a really good one to use. But now what I want you guys to do is look at this list and come up with something that is saying I'm about to move on, or there's another reason. I will just tell you right now, I really like furthermore right over here because it's short, it's simple, but it kind of sounds fancy. Same thing with additionally, it's like one word, but it sounds a little bit fancier. But you could also use also. You could also use in addition or coupled with. Anything that says we're moving on or moreover, any of them that, or likewise. See, there's so many of them for you guys to choose from. So choose one of those, or choose 2 of those. Have 2 of those in your mind. Because you will need them for your next 2 paragraphs. So the first one that you had in your mind is going to go in the topic sentence or the transition sentence, whichever one is on your paper right now. Let's see if I can do this. I'm just going to do this, transition. Well, actually, that. Do this. Put transition. Just so you guys know, there is no difference between the two. It just depends on what you prefer or what your teacher prefers to call it. So, whatever one you just put for the, or whichever one you just had in your brain for the transition words or phrases, you're going to put that at the beginning of your second paragraph. So I'm just going to put furthermore, because like I said, I like to use that one. Furthermore. And then the rest of it is your claim. So basically, if you want, you can look at your body paragraph number 1. And this is body paragraph number 2, by the way. I'll just label that. Body paragraph number 2. If you want to, you can look at your topic sentence or transition sentence for body paragraph number 1, and it is very similar. So you can copy and paste it essentially, but you just have to make sure you have a different transitional word or phrase, and the other part that's different is going to be for the second paragraph, you need reason 2. You should not restate your reason 1. That's it, and it's one sentence. Same thing with text or the cite text evidence. You are going to put in quotations where you got your reason number 2. So copy and paste from text. Or rewrite it directly from the book that you're working on. And then you put, again, in parentheses, the last name, whoever that might be, so maybe it's Bringle, and then the page number that you got it from. So that the reader knows you're being really nice to them and you're saying, hey, if you wanted to go look into this further, you could go to this source and you will find this piece of information. And then for explain evidence, you're going to explain. So you're going to say this shows, or this means, and it's going to be 2 sentences. So just make sure you're doing 2 sentences for this. And every body paragraph that you do is going to be 4 sentences. So 1 sentence for the topic sentence, 1 sentence for the cite text evidence, and then 2 sentences for the explain evidence. If you want to add a 5th sentence on, the next step to make it a little bit longer would be to further explain yourself. So you could add 5 or 3 sentences into the explain evidence.